Okay, cool. All right. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate that very much. I had a meeting with the fire department today. I'm creating,
just wanted to make sure you would get me in the right place.
Yes, thank you for that. I teach forensic science, and so I was working on a inspection of a fire. How do you investigate a fire? And it's really challenging because the evidence is all burned up and moved by firemen. So how do you do it? So I got firemen coming in to speak to my students about it. So I met them today for lunch just to kind of go over some stuff. So.
Oh, I love it.
That's why I had to push it back. Anyways, I hope you are staying warm.
Yes, sir, I am staying warm. I wear my winter hat just about everywhere I go.
And the heaters in your car work okay?
Yeah, thankfully I have working heaters where I live and where I drive. Yes.
Fantastic.
How about you?
Well, the Honda that I had, my mom's Honda, decided to give up his timing chain. And so the car is worth about $1,500 and the timing chain costs $2,000 to fix.
Yeah.
So I said, no, we're not gonna do that. So I have my son looking for a car in Florida. He lives down there. In the meantime, I have my 1985 Cadillac I'm driving for the next 2 weeks. And it has no heat because I didn't plan on driving this car in the wintertime.
Oh, no.
So it has no heat. And when it's really cold like this, when it's like 5 degrees.
Yeah.
There's more frost on the inside of the car than the outside. Because when you exhale all your water vapor.
Yeah.
And it just freezes on the windshield. So I'm driving inside a glazed donut and I can't scrape it that well because it's on the inside. So yeah.
That sounds rough.
So I'm glad you have heat.
Yes, thank you. You know what it's like not to. That's
exactly. So I want to introduce you first of all, and this is Ms. Lang, Ms. Carrie Lang from St. Vincent Charity. And what is your occupation? How long have you been there?
Yes, I am a project manager, and I have been with St. Vincent Charity for about 5.5 years.
Fantastic. And when you were a kid, what did you want to be?
It's funny. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian and an elevator operator. I loved people, like talking with people, and obviously I loved animals. But my daughter just asked me that question the other day, and I told her that I would love to be a farmer.
Fantastic. I used to, my mom and dad, when I lived on their farm, we had about 7 acres or so. And I would work the land every summer. It was fantastic. I loved it. It was so, you watch things grow.
Yep.
You plant them, it was amazing. I really miss that.
I love plants. I love to watch things grow. I love, getting dirty and then getting clean afterwards.
Mm-hmm. But the elevator operator is kind of a new one.
Yeah, that was random, but my parents always reminded me that I apparently said that a lot.
There are some places I've been to in Europe where they still have them.
Are they? Okay, so my dream can still be fulfilled.
It can be, yes. It's just, you have to live in a third world country. And you have to be able to sit on a little stool all day long. So that's what your job is. It's amazing to me.
Actually, yeah, I don't love being stuck in small spaces. Like airplanes don't, I like to move around a lot. So
that's why, when I travel, I don't like to go by plane or by ship.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
People always say, well, it's a big ship. I go, I don't care. I can only go as far as the railing.
Exactly.
I don't care how big it is. I can't get off the boat. I want to be able to get off the boat if I have to get off the boat.
Yep, I like my space.
Exactly. So, okay, so let's talk about what your role is as project manager at St. Vincent and how the first round of COVID, when it happened back in March of 20, what happened to the people that you were with and working with?
Okay, yep. So as a project manager, I get to work on a number of projects that face the community. One of them, for example, is helping the community access transportation to get to and from appointments. One of them is work with our community advisory board, which is made up of different organizations and residents from in and around Central.
Okay.
To build trust and inform what St. Vincent is doing, build trust with St. Vincent Charity and the community. And then that group was very impactful at the beginning of COVID as well, helping to, as St. Vincent would receive materials, PPE, et cetera. They, and even information about like meals that would be distributed. So that group really helped to get PPE and meals distributed. But the program that I am most passionate about, and I was planning to speak with you about today, is called a medical legal partnership.
Okay.
And this program was established at St. Vincent Charity in October of 2017. And it's a partnership between St. Vincent Charity and the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland.
I know Legal Aid. I know them.
Yep. And they are such a fantastic organization. They serve a 5-county area, and there's actually a legal aid that serves every county in the state of Ohio. So if a person comes to St. Vincent Charity and they have a legal issue in a county not served by Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, they can still be serviced through this program. What the program does is it addresses the civil legal needs of patients of St. Vincent Charity and their entire household. So through when this program first started, we started really as a focus in behavioral health units at St. Vincent. And then only about 6 months into the program started to expand to offer it through the medical units, through social workers, all throughout St. Vincent Charity. And we made it so that any person who identified a legal need of a patient could make a referral to legal aid. So some of the differences between what we would see in terms of patient needs early on.
Hang on, before you go any further than that, I had never heard anything like it before in any other hospital. This is a unique to St. Vincent?
Oh, it's not unique to St. Vincent. Metro started one about 20 years ago. They had one of the first ones probably in the country.
Okay.
I believe the MLP started out of a hospital in Boston, but so Metro has one, and more recently UH has one, and it was just announced the Cleveland Clinic is going to be starting one as well.
Yeah, so, I never heard of it before.
It is still very unique. It's a very that's why I love talking about it, is because so it's all grant funded at St. Vincent Charity. But the impact that this representation makes for folks, it can be life-saving.
It has to be.
It saves their housing. It provides them with safety. I have some client stories I was going to share with you today that, for example, food benefits were cut to $19 a month.
Oh my God.
$19 a month. So there's a clinician at St. Vincent Charity who a patient already has some rapport with, some trust in, and they're able to, through conversations, identify these legal needs, make a referral to legal aid, and then from there, legal aid does a full legal checkup. Like, what is going on in your life as a whole that we may be able to address? And so stepping back just a moment, there's this concept that's referred to as the justice gap. And I don't have this number right in front of me, John, but I can get it for you later. But it essentially, it's something like 70 to 80% of people who are living in poverty have several unmet legal needs that go completely unaddressed. And things that people don't even realize can be addressed with a legal means. And then legal aid in general, it's a small law firm. They have around, 50 to 60 attorneys, I think. But they have a limited amount of resources, and the need is so great, especially through the pandemic. People started losing their housing and having issues with benefits and things like that, and terminations and denials, and the issues with when every governmental organization was closing down or going remote. People ran into so many problems that limited their access to safety, shelter, food, etc.
I can imagine it. It had to be. I mean,
Yeah,
because the problem is, and I know you know this, okay? I know you know this, but I'm just reassuring it.
yep,
People don't know the legal problems they have, and then they did something did come up because it got neglected for so long. Then there's nobody can call a lawyer because they can't afford it.
correct.
You can't afford to talk to a lawyer, let alone meet with one. Forget it.
Correct. Absolutely true. And one of the incredible parts of the program at St. Vincent Charity is that, or any medical legal partnership really, is that when a patient identifies a need, or a clinician identifies a need, the patient gets connected with legal aid. They'll get a call back from legal aid, oftentimes the same day, and more, or within 24 hours. If somebody does end up calling legal aid, the regular intake number to get services, it can take up to several weeks
I believe
for their issue to be addressed. Yeah, just because of all the limited resources and the intense amount of need. So that is one of the benefits. St. Vincent Charity in general serves a population that has many social needs, and they are just living, more often than not, the clients or the people who are referred to legal aid, they make less than $10,000 annually for the entire household.
Oh my.
So we're talking extreme poverty, extremely limited resources, and living, like we were just saying, living in conditions with mold, with bed bugs, with water damage, and things that they don't know that, again, they don't know they have the legal recourse to have these things repaired and to live in a place that is a healthy, safe environment for them. And so legal aid does that all day long.
Wow.
It is just incredible and life-changing.
So let's go to the pandemic now. So thank you for that. That's a great insight. I appreciate that big time.
Yep.
Okay, so how before the pandemic and then after the first wave in March of 2020?
Yeah. So pre-pandemic, our numbers of people served were absolutely higher, and the types of cases, the number one case types were more about public benefits that were being denied, issues with Social Security, issues with housing, and expungements. Expungements is a huge one that's so important, because legal aid works with patients to appropriately get criminal records expunged, and then people are eligible for different types of housing and are eligible for employment in new ways.
Right, yes.
So that's another huge one. Into 2020, the number one issue that jumped to the top was absolutely housing, landlord-tenant issues, and also lots of family issues, divorce, child support, and things like that. And I have a couple of stories related to that where there's a lot of substance abuse stories where, one, for example, someone was married for 26 years in a situation where they were getting sober, getting treatment, getting healthy, and the spouse was just refusing to change their lifestyle. And so legal aid was able to help them to break free of that relationship, to get that divorce, and then to continue on with their own safe lifestyle. Yep. There's an incredible, well, actually, let me back up a bit. So I was noticing a couple of client stories pre-pandemic where they focused on really incredible things. Like, for example, there was a person who had a 15-year-old minor drug charge, in their past, denied housing. Legal aid got the case, sent a letter to the potential landlord, And after reading about this individual's situation, they overturned their decision and that person secured housing.
Wow.
There's another like kind of an interesting one where somebody had an opportunity that they thought they understood to rent to own the residence with some very important housing improvements that were going to be made by the landlord during the rental period. It was all kind of unclear. Legal aid got the case and turned out that that future was made clear for that person. It alleviated so much stress from their lives. They got the water damage cleaned up, and they got a clear path toward ownership and security for an extended period of time.
Wow.
So really cool stories. And then then into the pandemic, so starting like at the beginning of 2020, we started to read more about, for example, an individual who had a major depressive disorder, father died, health insurance was terminated for this person because the insurance company claimed that they had opioid dependence issues and were getting drugs from 4 different locations, 4 different doctors. So a state hearing, so legal aid represented this person, went to a state hearing, had the decision reversed by the state court because they were able to prove that it was a complete and total lie, that the patient, what we call a patient client at that point, was receiving care from 2 doctors. It was very clear their need for all the medicines that they were taking, and they were able to prove that in the court of law and have their insurance reinstated.
Wow.
That one was awesome to me. There's one, this was in the beginning of 2021. An older gentleman unexpectedly got custody of a grandchild. The grandchild's mother was struggling with substance use disorder, and this older gentleman had been paying child support from a past garnishment from his past.
Okay.
Gets custody of the grandchild totally unexpectedly. He only has, after he pays his child support and his rent, he only has like $70-some a month.
Oh my gosh.
to buy anything else he needs. So he gets connected with legal aid. They are able to they created this deal related to the garnishment where he continues paying, but as he continues paying, he gets to pay a lesser amount per month because of his current situation. And because actually in his past, there were periods where he was, turns out he was unemployed because, for example, the factory where he worked had a fire and he was laid off. And they never changed the amount that they were taking from him for child support. So it turns into, it just spirals, and it feels, I think, like very paralyzing or a dead end. And it turns out, like, with the help of legal aid through this program, it's a detour, it's an opportunity. They worked with him, they increased his food benefit, lowered this amount he's paying for child support, enrolled his grandchild in school, and then connected them with other community supports so that they could have the tools they needed to function in a healthy way.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
It truly is amazing. And it's incredible so we do a lot of trainings at St. Vincent Charity to make sure that clinicians are aware of how to issue spots. And even when they're not aware that they're of it, maybe identifying a specific issue, that they're aware of just how to connect people with the program.
I can see that because they don't know it. Because they come in contact with the patients every day. You don't come in contact with patients, but they do.
Right. One thing, during the pandemic, we actually started a new program. So at St. Vincent Charity, we have a psychiatric emergency department, and so we started a new program where every patient who comes through the psychiatric ED is actually screened to find out, do you have a reason that you would want to talk to legal aid? Is there a potential legal need that is causing you stress or causing you, to be unwell in some way? Is there some way that we can help you? And so we started that during the pandemic, just in order, because that's a place people come in crisis.
Sure.
And we wanted to make sure that every single one of them was asked a question about being connected with legal aid, and was also given a postcard with the number so that they could actually follow up and call legal aid on their own if they felt comfortable doing so.
Yeah, if you got psychiatric problems, chances are they've created legal problems for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Big time. Wow.
Definitely. There's a quick story this was from the middle of 2021. A person was inpatient in one of our psychiatric units and found out that she had an abandonment notice on the door of her apartment. And so your inpatient psychiatric diagnosis, find out that about this, imagine like the fear and the anxiety and the stress. But so she's connected with legal aid. They sent a letter to the property manager that was absolutely an illegal action that they were going to take. And then the person was able to finish their treatment in the hospital, get home, and found all of their items as they left them at their place, and return to safe and stable housing.
That would have been terrible. That would have been terrible.
Right.
They would follow through on that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah, and these are little examples, like, to give you just a quick in terms of like numbers. So in 2020, every quarter on average, there were 55 open cases, and there were 88 different persons who were impacted that quarter. So 88 people like in the households who benefited from the work that we went through. And these are so there's a lot of referrals that are made that never end up going anywhere for lots of reasons, like contact information isn't good, or the person decides, I just don't want to pursue this at this time, or whatever it may be. There's reasons, cases. So these are actual cases that are opened and results that are achieved every quarter. So 2020 was about 55 cases a quarter, 88 persons a quarter. 2021 dropped a little bit, average of 48 cases per quarter and 68 persons impacted. And then, like I said, we started that new program in the psychiatric emergency department. Mm-hmm. We've also started a pilot where we are training our medical residents to also screen people in our outpatient medical clinic.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that is important. And one of the things we're going to do in 2022 is we're going to really focus on a couple of the doctors who are in that clinic more regularly than the residents, and start to establish a pattern of education for them on the program and the issue spotting, and just to making referrals really easy for them, so that, because we think that that's a kind of an area where we are missing folks who have real civil legal needs that could be addressed.
What the needs change? You said from before it was expungement to housing, and what else? Pre-post.
Yeah, pre was more public benefits, housing, expungements, and SSI in that order.
Okay.
And then 2020 was more housing, expungements, SSI, and child support.
Wow, I can see that.
And then 2021 was landlord, tenant, and housing, divorce and child support, SSI, expungements, and I have housing listed again, actually there's, so that's what I got for 2021.
How did you handle the cases when you had to go remote? Did everybody get their laptops and they got on Zoom, or how did you do it?
Right. So the team from Legal Aid, that has been a challenge for us through the pandemic, is that they used to be on site at St. Vincent Charity 4 days a week in a very visible office where doctors, social workers would walk patients right to them. And they were always there in patient meetings. Since the pandemic, they haven't been able to be on site. Just there's the rules that Legal Aid has established for their entire staff. And so we have been doing a lot of Zooms. We've been doing a lot of email blasts across the house. We've started these new targeted programs that I mentioned. We have also been doing we've always done, throughout the entire MLP, we always do trainings, but we've tried to do more trainings that relate to the pandemic and issues specific to the pandemic, and how people can help. Like when the housing, the eviction moratorium was being set to expire, we were just moving as fast as we could to make sure all the clinicians were empowered with the information that they needed to help to even just calm patients in the moment. There's something that Legal Aid repeats over and over in trainings, like in a 3-day notice in an eviction, potential eviction proceeding, a 3-day notice, it doesn't mean you have to be out in 3 days. It's just saying we might file an eviction in 3 days. You've got, I forget the number, you've got something like 45 days minimum before you would actually have to be out if an eviction went through the court. So just things like that to empower the people.
And of course, they wouldn't know that. All they see is 3 days.
Exactly. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
But so now if somebody gets a 3-day notice, they come in St. Vincent, they notify their clinician, and the clinician can ease their mind right in that moment and say, nope, that's not what that means. And let me connect you with this program. And, kind of just eases their mind right from the start.
It has to, I guess imagine there has to be a lot of people that you meet or that your group meets with, and they let the person talk, and then you respond, and then it's just one big exhale.
Right.
It's like exactly. It's like the shoulders finally drop, and then it's like, really? I could just imagine that kind of reaction that you get. It's gonna be fantastic.
Right. It just, like I said, I can't stress enough how absolutely life-changing. This is a story pre-pandemic of a person who had a guardian who wasn't treating them appropriately, and was able to establish that they actually didn't even need a guardian to begin with through the help of Legal Aid, and was able to establish their own, just their own kind of freedom, essentially, and be able to manage their life on their own, whereas they were almost imprisoned prior to Legal Aid's help in that regard.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've helped hundreds of people since you've had the program. At least hundreds of people, if not maybe close to 1,000, since you started the program in 2017.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Absolutely true.
And you're right, and the thing about it is you're not in some suburb somewhere.
Right.
You're right where you're needed.
We serve, like, the population St. Vincent Charity serves is over 40% Medicaid, over 40% Medicare, insurance-wise, some self-pay. Currently the payer mix is very low on the commercial side. It's people who have extreme needs, and who are just living in very difficult situations for decades, or generations, really.
Wow, talk about life-changing, big time life-changing.
Yeah.
So have you had anybody come through the pandemic, like the people that you meet with, because they're already in difficult situations.
Yeah.
And the pandemic doesn't help at all. It makes it worse. do you see people who you may feel could have handled it before, but the pandemic made it worse? Or do you see people who just realize, okay, I've handled worse stuff before, I can still do this?
You know, there was one client story that I was reading, and because I don't get to interact with all of these folks. However, there was one client story I was just reading where a person, it happened at the end of 2020, and a person, they were quoted in this story as like, how can this be happening to me now with everything else going on in the world? How in the world can I continue on with this happening to me? And that's the person who I mentioned early on, their food benefit for absolutely no reason was reduced to $19 a month. They had absolutely no change in income or life for the past 4+ years. Turns out, so they get connected with Legal Aid. Ohio Department of Job and Family Services had incorrectly processed their paperwork, and had some errors in that regard. And then they ended up being awarded a higher amount than they were previously getting before the reduction.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I know that scenario is not unique in the sense of like, how can I deal with this on top of everything else that is going on in the world and just right around me? Like, the amount of stress and toxic stress is such a normal thing in the central neighborhood.
Right.
And so the pandemic and the stress that it has added, and just all of the unknowns and the constant change. I mean, we're all used to constant change in some way or another pre-pandemic, but I mean, it has just been heightened beyond belief, I think, in some ways. I mean, kids not being able to go to school and people needing to figure out how to manage that, and meals and childcare and just all of it. Yeah, I don't know more specific stories of that to share with you, but that one that I did share, but I know that is not unique for sure.
I can just imagine when you check your balance, you have $19, and you're like, what do you do? You know, I mean, you can't tell your children because then they're going to just freak out. So you have to take it and absorb it, and then find a way to fix it. But then where do you go? If you guys aren't there, what do you do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you do? I don't know what people do if they don't get connected with this in so many situations. It's
wow. So let me ask you this. How would you like, let's just say you're up in front of a bunch of people, all right, and you want to share your story. You're talking to the artist now. So right now you're talking to your artist. What would you like that artist to convey on a canvas? What you just try to say? What would you like them to try to convey to the people who see that artwork?
Okay, there's two things I was thinking about before we talked. And one is the fact that this incredible program meets people right where they are. And they meet them right where they are with care and compassion and an effort to bring the folks who they're serving, bring them back their dignity. And the other thing that I think might be actually a little bit more visual in a sense that I was thinking was these life situations that we've been talking through. They are paralyzing. They are debilitating.
They are.
And rather than remaining paralyzed, the people who are connected with this program, they find out that they're on a little detour to a totally new opportunity to focus on their health, their wellness, their security, like long-term security, safety, in many, many cases, sobriety. Like, sobriety can be bolstered through this program when you remove toxic stressors
Mhm.
from a person's life, and you have stable housing and income, and then you can focus on getting well, getting healthy. You can get transportation that you need to get to the appointments that you need to get well. So visually, yeah, turning that paralyzing or debilitating situation into a detour that turns into where people actually have hope, and have new opportunities ahead of them.
Could you do me a favor? Could you possibly find a person, you pick whoever person you want, that I could interview then and have the same thing done for them? Meaning I give that story to an artist.
Wait, say it again. I'm not following you.
Could you find somebody in this people that you have helped the past 2 years, either pre or post pandemic or in the middle of pandemic, that I would interview, just like I just interviewed you, and have their story then given to an artist as well, and have the artist then create a story based upon that, just like I'm doing.
Oh, based on their specific situation?
Yeah, just like I'm doing with you.
I will ask. Absolutely, I will ask.
That'd be fantastic to have those side by side,
Yeah, that would be absolutely great.
Because you have your story, which is it's a broader picture of what it does and how it does it. Then you have the personalized part of it, of the person that actually that went through it.
Yeah, gives.
Think about that. Let me know. I'll do the same thing. Just make a phone call.
Okay.
And then we'll record it and we'll give it to an artist. Because I think it'd be great to have both of those together. Your story is just phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And how many people that you touch and everything else, it's just crazy phenomenal. But now if we just heard the details of one of them, it would really add to it.
I love the sound of that. Yep, I will find out.
Okay, excellent. Ms. Lang, I appreciate it very much.
Dr. Shoup, it's been a pleasure.
We're progressing through these. Artists are getting the stories as we speak. And I'll let you know the progress. We're looking at May for the unveiling. Well, I'll give you details as we go through each month, okay?
Thank you, yes. And I will let you know about a specific story for an interview as well.
Fantastic. Perfect.
Okay, thank you for your time and your work on this.
Oh, thank you for your stories. They're fantastic.
You're so welcome. Talk to you again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye.